cloud.
We are good to go.
All right,
Jake
I think we're
Currie.
on.
Oh my
Nice
gosh,
work,
this is
Jen.
the best. This is just the best. And I'm just going to open up. We are live. Now, we're not side by side, but I'm just going to say.
I've just
we might-
changed that, so maybe that's going to switch over.
Yeah. All right. It doesn't matter. We are here and we're happening, and I'm happy about that. Hello, everybody in Feel to Heal Emotional Revolution. Welcome to Thursday. Can you believe it's Thursday? Holy smokes. What a week it's been so far. When I first put the Feel to Heal Emotional Revolution together, it really did come through as a pull, a compelling. I was just the vessel that it came through, and it's completely grown its own legs and taken on its own life. And I want to really honor and acknowledge the incredible guests that we've had come on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Rachel and Mel and Ian, and their openness and their transparency and vulnerability in sharing their beautiful stories and really being able to help and support. The feedback's been amazing. Today is Thursday, and today the emotion that we are going to be discussing with joy and open-heartedness, which is what we've been talking about. We talk about these emotions in a really open-hearted way. We're not shoving them under the carpet. We're in fact bringing them out. But I'm so honored and excited. We've got someone watching us live, but I'm so honored and excited to share with you today this incredible human sitting next to me. I'm pointing the right or wrong way, I don't know. Who I've known since 2013. We first met when we both were CrossFitters. I'm not a CrossFitter anymore, but I think Jake still CrossFits. And we really connected on a deep level then because we just vibed to this same conversation about health and wellness and the universe and all that kind of stuff. And we've kind of stayed connected ever since. And we now both work in a very similar field. But when it came to wanting to choose the people that I wanted to bring into this 5 days, Jake was definitely at the top of my list because this is his jam, like it's my jam, you know, and we have great conversations. So without further ado, and we need to thank Jake for being so technically able to get us live streaming today. So I want to give him a high five for that too.
I can't take that credit. I can't. You talked me through everything.
So without further ado, please welcome to the Feel to Heal Emotional Revolution on the subject of the emotion of hurt is Jake Currie. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks for having me.
I want to first start by just inviting you to share with the listeners who you are, what you do, and who and how you help people.
Right. So my name's Jake Currie. I am a former chiro, which is where I was doing that kind of stuff when you and I met, Jen. Now I run a program called Mind Body Masters, which is essentially helping and teaching people how to heal themselves physically by resolving and dealing with a lot of the emotional baggage that they hold on to. So I run a group program. It's just coming to an end at the moment, which is really exciting, where people can start to really learn that emotions are okay, learn how to process them, and with the real emphasis on physical healing. So I since 2014-ish, probably just around the time you and I met, I started studying and practicing something called German medicine, which is essentially the roadmap between the mind and the body, looking at how specific, stressful and unexpected and emotionally distressing events can cause physical change in the body. So I utilize that as kind of the foundation of my work and helping people to process their stuff so that they can heal and live great lives.
That is, and you know that I have a complete love and passion for German new medicine. And I know, and I think I've told you this, but and my kids often tell this as, our woo-woo mum healed a skin cancer on her leg, but I did that through Will, who I think Will was, do did you learn with him or through him or?
Yeah, Will was one of my mentors. He taught me plenty of stuff.
Yeah. So this is going back a long way as well. So it is such a powerful modality, and anything that deals with the emotions, I'm just so down for. So Jake, today we are talking about the emotion hurt. So I'd love for you to share. And if anyone is watching, I know there's a couple of people on live. If you have any questions as Jake goes through this, please just pop them in. I'm going to moderate and make sure I get these questions to Jake. If it is a question you don't want to ask in the, openly, send it as a PM or an email. You all have my email, and I can get that question to Jake. So,
Cool.
so Jake, tell us your story. Tell us the story that you have in and around hurt.
What do you want to know specifically, Jen? Like where do you want me to go with this? Because there's a few probably different directions.
I'm going to leave that to you. I'm going to totally leave that to you and go, whatever comes through is exactly what needs to come through. I used to be a control freak, Jake, but I'm not anymore. So I'm handing it over.
You're reformed, are you?
I'm a reformed control freak. I just trust that whatever needs to come through will come through.
Yeah, cool. All right. So hurt, I guess that when you reached out to me and you sort of said, do any of these resonate with you? Which one resonates with you? I was definitely most drawn to hurt, for sure. And I think the reason being is because that's a lot of where I played as a kid. It was something that I experienced really deeply, but it was something that I never would like. I probably didn't have the emotional understanding or the intelligence to label it as hurt. I would say I was an angry kid, right? I would be known to have these aggressive outbursts, and I would be quite rough with my little sister, which is something I look back on with sadness. But the thing is, like, I was quite an angry kid. Like, I would have these outbursts and tantrums. I'd throw shit. I would punch stuff. Like, I was always very angry, right? But the thing was, I didn't realize. I always thought that I was an angry kid and I'd have these massive outbursts and things like that. But what I realized later in life is that anger was just like the lid of the cup. And one of my mentors, Emma Romano, she uses this analogy and it's beautiful. It's like, imagine you got a cup and it's like on the top is anger. But like once you open anger and take that away, there's usually something underneath. And so for me, that was hurt. And yeah, so it's been a massive part of my own journey into doing what I'm actually doing today, in so many ways. Because the thing was, I grew up as a kid with constant injuries physically. Like I was always playing sport and things like that, but I always was having these physical injuries. So I was hurting physically as well. But the thing was, none of them ever really made much sense. Like I'd wake up or I'd do some small exercise and I'd tear a muscle completely, or I would break bones really easily. Like I've had every injury under the sun. And so it wasn't until I started looking into GNM, it was a lot of physical pain is caused from a self-devaluation complex. So feeling like you're not enough, feeling like you are worthless and all this kind of stuff. And this is when I really started to unpack a lot of the hurt that I'd experienced. So I guess to start this conversation is, for me, hurt was something that I didn't register with. I registered with anger. I was this kid who was really aggro and would throw stuff and break stuff and trash my room if I was hurt. But it wasn't until later in life that I started to recognize that the anger was just the surface level stuff, and the hurt was the stuff that really needed to be looked at.
I love that so much. And and again, and I think I brought this up when I was chatting with Mel about anxiety, and this is not a judgment or a fault finding mission or laying blame as to why this all happened.
Yeah.
But what has been consistent in these conversations is the labeling that was given to us about, in this case, in your case, you were labeled an angry child. You were given the belief and the identity that you're an angry child. So speak to that. Speak a little bit to that.
I guess that's kind of disheartening, because obviously the more you reinforce something neurologically, the more it becomes your reality. So the more I thought of myself as an angry child, the more I thought of myself as a someone who's really aggressive and throws stuff and breaks stuff. And mind you, that sort of all stopped when I got to about, I don't know, 10 or 12, maybe a bit older than 12 kind of thing. But yeah, I guess that was something that reinforced that, and something that really did become a part of my life. And it was, I would be known to have an angry outburst, and mum would be like, oh, you're doing that angry thing again, you're having this outburst and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it definitely became part of my identity. And by the way, like, this is nothing against, obviously our parents do absolutely everything they can to help us with the skills that they have. And so this isn't a matter of pointing a finger at my parents or whatever. It's, I've spent a few years doing that, and I've realized it's not the answer. But
true. Yeah. And that's what I meant by,
yeah,
we're not looking to lay blame or go on a, fault finding mission here. Everybody, including our parents, we just know what we know until we know something else. So,
exactly.
And they knew what they knew, and, eventually they would know something else. But can I just hit that point that you just said then? You spend a lot of time, as most of us probably have that have dealt with these emotions, looking to, go, well, you did this and you did that and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and go down that path of blaming and fault finding. So
Massively.
yeah.
It's an easy thing to do because it takes the pressure off ourselves. I love the old saying, when you point a finger at someone, you've got three pointing back at you.
Good
So
one.
whenever you're in that state of blaming someone else, it's probably a pretty good indication for you to look at yourself. And the thing was, I wasn't ready to take responsibility for how I was feeling. So it was easier for me to blame my parents, my friends, my whoever, right? It's a lot easier to do that than to actually be responsible and to go, you know what, maybe it's not their fault. Maybe this is something I need to clean up. So
that is so brilliant. Oh my God. This is, we're only 20 minutes in, and there's been so much gold in this conversation already. That's exactly it. This is such a great analogy. I love that.
yeah.
And just yesterday in another group that I facilitate, I shared a lesson in my book that is all about radical responsibility. It's synchronistic that it's come up again, and it is synchronistic, because that's it, isn't it? We will continue to look outside of ourselves for the quick fix, the magic pill, the reason, the why, it's not my fault, the blame, all of that, until we're really ready to get that big old spotlight and go, all right, I think I need to turn that spotlight here for a second and see what's going on here. So you mentioned that it all kind of stopped around when you were around 11 or 12, the anger stopped. Did it stop, or did it just get redirected?
I think it just morphed into more hurt. Like, I think that's when it started to become more obvious that I was a hurt kid rather than an angry kid. So, but with that sort of self-responsibility thing, I just want to circle back there and close that loop, if I may. But the thing is, and this is something that I see in my clients all the time, is they're constantly looking outside themselves for the answer to stuff, when the thing is, it actually is a matter of shining that light inwards and going, all right, how am I creating this? Because the thing is, it's our internal state is our reality. It's our external reality. So whatever you're seeing externally is simply a reflection of what's going on internally. And so I went through this pattern for years, and I just want to share this story because I'm sure a lot of people can relate. I went through this pattern for years. Like, when I was in uni and starting out in my chiropractic, was I would constantly blame and look outside myself. It's like, no, this isn't my fault. Like, this is this person's fault. This is that person's fault. And I was constantly trying to fix things externally that were resulted from my internal state. And it wasn't until one of my mentors, I got to the point where I was just so sick and tired of my own shit and getting in my own way, that was, and it took a bit of a nudge from someone who could see what I was doing to actually go, all right, mate, you need to start looking inwards. You need to shine this light. And I'm like, I don't need to shine a bloody light in me, blah, blah, blah. But as soon as I did, it was everything started to shift. So I think that's something that's really useful to take away, is once we can start, if you're recognizing that you're pointing the finger and you can start shining that light inside, you'll be surprised at what you find. It can be ugly to look at, and it can be a bit of a battle, but if you're listening, it's worth it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as a kid, it transformed into that anger, transferred into the hurt, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I used to have this saying. I used to say this one thing all the time, and I eventually caught myself saying it, but I used to say, "Oh, it's all right for you. It's all right for them." I giggle now, I giggle about all my faux pas, but yeah, if you find yourself saying, "Oh, it's all right for you," or "It's all right for them," if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't be in it, blah, blah. Yeah. It's just that it's transferring, isn't it? You're just
It can be very subtle.
Yeah.
It can be very subtle, very covert.
Yes. All our patterns are so covert. That's a whole nother
Absolutely.
conversation.
It is.
So, tell me, so let's talk now about when you began to really begin to recognize this, when you did decide to, look at those three fingers pointing back. What were your steps? What did you do?
So I guess I took pretty radical action. It wasn't necessarily like I started journaling or I started doing this or whatever. It was, I got to the point in my life where I realized that all of the stuff that I was creating in business and life, it actually started when I got to the point where I had a relationship that ended, and I kind of saw a pattern in the relationships that I've had, and I've gone, I keep attracting the same kind of woman. And all of a sudden I realized that, hey, if I'm attracting the same kind of woman, it's not anything outside of me. It's actually something to do with me. And so that was kind of the catalyst for me to do some work. And so I went and did like a full-on men's retreat in 2014, 15. I can't remember exactly. But it was a baptism of fire, essentially, for someone who had done such an amazing job of not processing and not feeling my emotions. I got thrown into the fire. Well, I willingly walked into the fire, and it was interesting because one of the things that I learnt up there is when you have this burn, this like feeling that you should do something, do it, because it's usually right. And so I had this nervous energy of like, oh, I think I need to do this. Finally, my mentor, my business coach at the time, she was telling me that it was a good thing to do. And so I finally did it. And so it was a 4-day retreat with like 30, 40 blokes, where we basically just finally allowed ourselves to feel and process all of the shit that we've sort of, and men, we're particularly, there's this bit of a stereotype with us guys, is that we tend to put on a brave face more and more. And it's no wonder that men have such high rates of suicide and depression, because they just don't have, like, naturally women, and I'm generalizing here, but a lot of the time women have they like to have a connection with their friends and their girlfriends, and they talk about what's going on for them, but that's not necessarily something that guys do. And I was in that category. Like, I grew up playing footy and stuff. We didn't talk about our feelings. We just soldiered on. And so getting up there and doing this work was like this baptism of fire, and actually processing it. And I shed so many layers of myself there. And I was in a healing profession. I was in a healing environment. And basically what I wrote a post a while ago, a bit about my origin story. And that was a real catalyst moment for me, because I saw what healing was. I realized that healing wasn't something physical that we do. It wasn't something that like that a therapist does, like a practitioner does to us. It's an internal state. Healing's an internal state. And so that was a catalyst for me, not only to start peeling back the layers for myself, but it also changed the direction and the path of how I help people.
I love that. Healing is an internal state.
Yeah.
It is. I just got off a call with a client, and literally that thing almost word for word, got said. And what I was sharing was, so often when it comes, when we kind of, we're looking for the quick fix, the magic pill, the silver bullet, whatever you want to call it, we're looking for the modality that we think if we do once is going to solve everything. Now, I'm not in any way judging or knocking any of the modalities. I do them all. You know, I love my Reiki. I love my self-hypnosis. I love I love all of that stuff. I love NLP. I love kinesiology. I love it all. And I use it all, you know, all the time. I meditate daily. I sit in stillness daily. But it is, you know, they are the tools to support the internal healing that can only start and with you going within to do that. And then those tools, you know, will support, but they are not going to be the thing that, in fact, you know, and Mel brought this up, and I'm going to, you know, say it again. Often the self-help and the self-development industry can be a form of distraction for many people to not go within and do the deep inner work, because we kind of tell ourselves, yeah, I've done this and I've done this and I've done this. And, you know, so you know, in the work I do, I talk about subconscious patterns, and they love to distract, deflect, and deny.
Yeah,
and
massively.
Self-development and self-help and personal development can be a lovely juicy carrot for those patterns to go, yeah, I've tried this and I've tried that. So thank you for putting that out there. You know, the healing does begin within. So awesome. I love it, Jake. Got a couple of people online. Mel is actually online watching us at the moment too. So hi, Mel. So I did invite everybody to, because this, you know, this whole emotional revolution has grown its own legs, and it is totally just doing its own thing now. And I'm just kind of running with it. So I wanted to make sure that everybody bought some practical tools or some tips or things that people could take away, so that if anyone who joined the emotional revolution and even spent an hour, you know, listening to one of the interviews or the emotional tools that I've shared, if they could take away just one thing that was going to, you know, help them. That's a long way for me to say. What are your tips, Jake?
Sure. Yeah, awesome. So
I have a tendency of doing that. So, you know, but I love that about me.
I actually had the word tautology written on one of my English essays, and I didn't even know what it meant. But what it means,
I don't know what it means. What is tautology?
I don't even know if that's the right way of saying it. I could be completely wrong. But basically, I got hammered in my English exams at high school for saying the same thing about 6 different ways over and over again. So there's a word for it. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, in the comments. But anyway,
I'm going to Google it. I'm going to Google it, because that's totally me.
Yeah. So it's, yeah, me too. So I guess my tips, I took some time to sort of write this down, and they kind of play into what we were talking about before. So one of the things that I like to think of, and by the way, I distracted myself with every single personal development thing under the sun. And I was like, yep, I don't need to do anything else because I've done this work. And it's actually something I call bullshit on with my clients. It's actually a way of spiritual bypassing, is just going, yeah, I've done the work. What are you talking about? I don't need to deal with that. It's like, you do. Okay. So I was a big person of distractions. And so I wanted to sort of talk to 2 of those points there. And one of the things that I always say is healing not only is an internal state, but it just takes a single moment of courage to actually start healing, right? It's often, I use the analogy all the time. It's like, as a kid, you're lying in bed and you're thinking there's this monster under your bed, and you start to ruminate on it. You start to get more and more stressed about it, and the monster gets bigger and bigger in your mind. And this is like unprocessed feelings. You might have this unresolved hurt, for example, that you just haven't looked at, and you've never cried. Like, I didn't cry at my grandparents, both my grandparents, any of their funerals, because I was just so locked up. But the thing is, the more that you don't look at it, the bigger it kind of gets. And so what I realized is that if you're a little kid and you've got, thinking there's a monster under your bed, it just takes a single moment of courage to go, all right, I'm going to look at it. And you get the flashlight out and you look at it and you go, then all of a sudden you're in it. You can always process things in the present moment. But the thing is, when we go, oh, this is too big a task, this is so, I don't think I can process all this anger or this hurt or this anxiety. It just takes a single moment of courage to get the ball rolling. So this is something that I learned very early on, and it's so useful. So my first tip for learning how to feel to heal is speak. So one of the things that a lot of people think about when they think about, okay, I need to learn how to feel more so that I can heal. And I talk about this all the time in my group, is it's not about just sitting there meditating and or letting your feelings come up. And while those things are massively important, one of the things that's really valuable is actually to talk with someone about how you're feeling, right? So half the time in my group, like the biggest breakthroughs that people have had is when they've got their phone out and they've gone, all right, guys, I'm just going to go live and tell you about something that I've never looked at in my life. And they start sharing that thing. So one of the things that I would say is, we're pack animals. Find yourself a community like this one that Jen's created. Find yourself a community where it's safe to actually express how you feel. There is a very big difference between expressing and getting caught up in the story of your stuff and expressing it from a heartfelt way. And one of the things is, the times that I've processed emotion the most is when I have spoken to people. I've had the courage to actually say how I feel. So that's probably number one.
Can I offer, I just would love to offer something to that. One of my favorite words is discernment. So when it comes to choosing who you open up to and share with, I encourage you to be discerning. Sometimes I often see, and Jake, your group is such a beautiful group, and you are such a great holder of space. And I have a couple of similar groups, but I'm not, banging our drum, but sometimes I see people on social media that just, they just have got a public profile and they just will open up and be vulnerable in that forum. And I think that can be a little dangerous to do that, because
massively,
you're opening yourself up to, thousands of patterns filtering your vulnerability. And it can often lead or end in, you having an experience that you don't want to have. So when you are choosing where to share, please be really discerning in where you be vulnerable, and choose a group like Jake, or choose, something like I've created here, or choose that person that will hold that space for you without trying to fix you, without trying to judge you, without trying to make you feel better, all of those kinds of things. So yeah, I love that, Jake. Thank you for bringing that up.
Jen, that's so huge as well, is because the thing is, that can often is, if you do voice your opinion and you get shut down, what's that going to teach you? What's that going to teach you about? All of a sudden it goes, it's not safe for me to be vulnerable. And then you just end up bottling a heap more stuff up for another 30, 40 years. And then you're wondering why you're getting sick. So and it doesn't need to be a group. It's like, just if you've got a particular friend that you can just listen to, is connection. Humans are wired for connection. And so just find someone or people that you can trust, that you can actually speak to, not just vent and dump your shit on them, but actually sit with your feelings and let them sit with them as well. Which brings me to my second point, actually. So one of the concepts that I love is meta emotions. So how do you feel about how do you feel? And one of the ways in which you can really discern how you feel about how you feel is notice your reaction when other people are getting emotional. So if someone's getting sad, how does it make you feel? Does it make you feel uncomfortable? Do you feel compelled to fix them? Do you feel compelled to offer solutions? Right? I used to do this a lot, is go, hey, you've got a nail in your head. I can see why, right? It's like, let's just get this nail out of your head and then you'll feel better. But the thing is, when you can start to recognize, this is in terms of processing your own emotions, it's a matter of acceptance and allowing them to be there. And the number one way that I have found to allow my own emotions to be there is allow those emotions to be there in other people. So if you're a parent, for example, if your kid's having a meltdown, let them have a bit of a meltdown. Let that energy bubble up, and then just eventually it'll dissipate. But don't immediately go into fixing. Don't immediately go into problem solving, because when you can start to allow those emotions for other people, what you're actually signifying to your subconscious and your unconscious is saying, hey, it's safe for this person to be sad. It's safe for this person to be hurt. It's safe for this person to feel anxiety. And what in turn that does is it reflects back to you, and then it's saying, Jake, it's safe for you to feel hurt. It's safe for you to feel this. And all of a sudden you won't create that resistance, because there's so many ways that people will, instead of feeling something, they will feel the resistance to feeling it because it doesn't feel safe. Because we haven't. And the thing where this often starts for people is how we were brought up as kids. And again, nothing against your parents. Don't go pointing the finger at them. They're learning their lessons like you are you. So the thing is, it's like when we're kids, and if I was hurt, I don't even know if this is a real example, I'm just making something up, but if I was hurt and my parents are like, no, it's okay, it's okay, shh. You quickly learn that it's not okay to be hurt. So that would be
what? Yeah, this is, I admit this all the time in, with the people that I work with and my groups and stuff. Yeah. If I had $1 for every time I said to my kids when they were growing up, don't be sad. Don't be sad. You're okay. Come on, up you get. I'd be in the Bahamas. Some really hot guy would be fanning me and feeding me grapes. Honestly, it would be, I'd be wealthy as.
Yeah.
But I now know that badge of honor that I wore as this great mum that, raised these tough kids that never cried was probably the greatest disservice that I, did to my children in terms of understanding their emotions. Fortunately, it's very different for them and I now. And, whenever I uncover something that I know better, I'll sit my kids down and go, and they're 22 and 24, but I'll sit them down and go, that thing I used to say, well, I kind of made a mistake, and this is what I want you to know about that. So if you are a parent and you're sitting there going, oh my God, I always tell my kids, don't be sad. Don't give yourself a hard time about it. You're just human. I mean, you're seriously just human. It's a natural thing to not want the people you love to not be sad or not hurt. But going forward, we're not what we've done or what's been done to us. We're what we do now, right? We're what we do now. So going forward, as Jake just said, give them the space. Give them the space.
And what you said is so true. It's like, don't beat yourself up. It's not going to do any good for anyone. But the thing is, if you really do care about someone, it's not a matter of, it's okay, don't be sad, don't be sad, don't be sad. If you really care about someone, it's about holding space and allowing them to actually feel their stuff, because that's it's a really beautiful gift that you can give. Is if you can just sit there and mirror someone while they're experiencing sadness or experiencing grief or experiencing something, and just sit there with them. Don't try and fix it. It's a really, really beautiful thing. So it's a good way of actually, it's kind of, we're trying to fix them, but it's like, if you can just sit with them and let them be, that's doing a really great job. So that would be my second point, is notice how you respond to other people's emotions. And by allowing those emotions to be there in others, in turn, you're going to signal to yourself that it's safe for you to experience those same things.
I love it.
Last one. I wrote this last one down. This is huge for me, and probably you, Jen. I'm sure you can probably resonate with this a lot.
I resonate with everything you've said, Jake. It's why I love you so much. I think you're just such a stellar human.
Oh, thank you. Right back at you. So the last point here is notice when you're distracting yourself from feeling. Okay, so
I'm having a little giggle. I'm just having a little giggle because...
Right. And so I, even to this day, get stuck in this pattern occasionally, right? Is so if something's happened and I haven't processed it fully, I'll just distract myself. I will be on my phone. I'll be mindlessly scrolling Facebook or Instagram and something, or I'm just darting around trying to do things and make things, fun things happening. This is a really good way. This is how I distract myself from feeling. So I distract myself from feeling by doing stuff and making myself feel good, whether it be doing fun stuff or reading a new blog, or often even understanding why I'm feeling sad or why I'm feeling. This was a real thing for me, because I had to understand why I was hurt. And so I'd be researching things. So that was just a distraction.
Yeah, from feeling the hurt.
Right. I didn't want to feel the hurt, so I was trying to understand why I was feeling
Why am I
hurt.
feeling? Yeah, I'm going to find out why I'm feeling the hurt. Oh
Yeah.
my God. I deal
The
with
amount of
so many people that I just want to know why. Well, we could just feel it.
That's it, right? So there's so many ways of distracting yourself. I distracted myself with occupying myself with different things. Others might distract themselves with alcohol or drugs or sex or exercise or um,
Exercise was
work.
my drug of choice.
Yeah.
I used
Yeah.
to, when I was a coach, when I was a fitness coach, I used to coach people. This is the truth. I'm really open with all my
Yeah.
mistakes, but I used to coach people, if you're having a bad day, go for a run. That's what I used to tell people to do, because that's what I did. That's how
Yeah.
I coped with my, my feeling, those feelings I didn't know how to process. I would just go for a run, and yeah, of course it would go away because my body would be flooded with all those feel good chemicals, but I didn't, it was just distraction. I just distracting myself. That feeling would eventually come on back up,
Yeah.
and I
Exactly.
wore myself out. I literally gave myself adrenal fatigue and chronic fatigue from using exercise as a distraction to feel my feelings.
Yeah. I used to do the same. Now I actually do the opposite. If I'm actually feeling something, I can use exercise to process something, which is
Yes.
quite cool. It's just a
Yes.
different intention. It's
Yes,
like
absolutely.
I now go for a run, and I've had times where I've run and I've just needed to scream, and I'm just like,
Mm.
and just like let some stuff out and
Mm.
move
But
the
it's
energy through your body.
it's consciousness that does that, right? It's
Mhm.
are you in an automated pattern that isn't consciously choosing anything, or are
Yeah.
you conscious and go, I can feel something here. What can I use to, what are the tools that I've got available to me now to presence that feeling? So
Yeah.
I get exactly what you're saying.
So on that point is, so notice when you're distracting, because that's just as Jen's an expert at, is that's an unconscious pattern of, not, I meant like you're good at, like you know all
No,
about
no,
patterns
I'm
and
good
stuff.
at I'm very good at I'm a very expert distractor. Oh yeah.
So notice when you're getting into that unconscious pattern of distracting yourself from
Mm,
feeling. And one of the most covert ways that people will distract themselves is trying to fix the way that they feel.
mm,
So I think it's Mark Manson that says the desire for a positive experience is in itself a negative experience. The acceptance of one's own negative experience is in itself a positive experience. So the thing is, I used to try and fix, if I was feeling sad or whatever, I would try and fix it. It's like, I've got the tools, I could do some meditation, hypnosis, and blah, blah, blah. I would go into these things with the intention of fixing the thing. Whereas the thing is, when your goal is the desire of fixing something, you're actually putting your attention on what's wrong, and that
yeah.
actually amplifies and it doesn't actually dissolve. But whereas when you can actually accept how you're feeling and go, okay, I'm feeling a bit sad right now, not try and fix it, not try and make it better yourself. It's just like the parents going, shh, stop, stop, stop. You don't need to be
Yeah.
sad. It's
Yeah.
the same pattern. But when you can actually allow that, that's a positive experience. So when I'm in that distraction mode, I have to go, Jake, stop. I literally tell myself that, and I'll go and sit on my couch here and in my office, and I will just sit there and get still, get quiet. It's not a way of I need to fix this thing. It's just, what am I feeling? Lean into it, allow it and accept it to be there, because when you can accept it, that's when it actually starts to dissolve.
Can I presence it?
Yeah.
The tool I shared yesterday is a tool I call What's Real Right Now.
Mm.
And it's just a quick tool that helps you, when you get into that fixing mode, or you'll get into that figuring out mind, or that how mode, or where, your thoughts are taking you. And this happens to me often. I wake up this way. I'm already halfway through my day thinking about all the things that I've got to do, or need to do, or should be doing. And then before I know it, I'm in the past and I'm thinking of all the things that I haven't done and didn't do. But when I use this little tool of What's Real Right Now, I just literally sit up in my bed and I just keep repeating that phrase, what's real right now? And I'll start, I might just start by looking at my hands, and I'll go my hands, and I'll ask again, what's real right now? The blue sky I can see out the window. What's real right now? And just keep going and keep going with that until you come back to that. what's here
Yeah.
with me right now, and can I
Yeah.
just be with that? Can I let that be here with me as well? Can I be
Yeah.
with it, and can it be here with me?
Yeah, because I think it's Byron Katie that says, the more you argue with reality, the more it hurts, or something along those lines.
Yeah, she's great. She says this thing. She goes, when people tell her a story, she goes, I know it happened because it did.
Yeah. How do you know something was meant to happen? Because it did happen.
Because it did.
Yeah.
And I'm not giggling. Please, guys, know when I giggle, because I do, it's not to minimize. I giggle at myself because, this is all me. Everything that Jake has spoken about. Yes, I work in this field, but the reason I work in this field is because this is me. I've done this inner work, and so I do giggle at myself a lot. Which is just quietly a far more peaceful way to live, when you can giggle with yourself.
You're doing this inner work as well.
Oh, every day, my friend, every day, every second of every day. There's not
absolutely.
and I offer this to everybody. Know that you are going to be human first and enlightened second. And all day, every day, enlightened you is going to spit you out. Or I say the truth of you is going to spit you out. And your job is to step back in to the truth of you over and over and over. But no, you're not going to live there. It's going to spit you out. Why? Because we've got to interact with the world, and the world is how we get our growth. That's how we get, that's the pressure that, diamonds are formed under pressure. That's kind of, the universe expanding for 13.8 billion years. We're part of the universe. We are expanding and growing. And you can fight that, or you can kind of, nearly knock my water over. You can grow with it, go with it and grow with it.
Absolutely. Like being in a boat, you can row against the stream, or you can go with it. I know which one is easier.
Oh my gosh, Jake. You and I both know that I can talk with you. Well, I can talk. We know that, but I can love jamming with you on this stuff.
Me too. It's good.
It's simple, but it's not. It's easy, but it's not. But it just starts with just turning that spotlight back here, and knowing that everything that we need, all the answers, all the healing is available to us inside of us. It really is.
Absolutely.
So let me, we've still got people watching. I haven't got any questions, but sometimes there's a delay as well. But if they come through, I'll send them on. And you're in the group. So if anyone watches this on replay and pops up comments,
just tag me.
Yeah. Is there anything that has come up or that you've thought about that you haven't shared but would really love to share? Sometimes you get that voice in your head going, say this, and then your pattern goes, no, don't say that. But is there anything that you would like to share that you haven't?
There was one thing that I wanted to share, which was a poem. Do you mind if I might just...
Oh my God, I would love you to. And I'll even not talk during the whole time.
It's one of my favorite poems on this particular topic, and I think it's really useful. I think I might even see if I can share this on a screen, if that's all right, Jen.
Please do. It's one of my favorites. When you messaged me about it, I went, yeah.
I think that's a really cool thing. So I'll just bring that up for you now. Look at me teching it out. So this is a poem by Rumi called The Guest House. So this being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house, empty it of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond.
Oh,
I just
love it. If you want to, and you can put a screenshot share in the comment,
sure.
That would be so great, because I know people do. Yeah, I know people love this stuff. Oh my goodness, Jake.
Awesome.
This week is, talk about expanding and expansion. This whole week has just I know it's been that for everyone else, but you know, it's definitely been that for me too. I'm so grateful and so appreciative of your time and your wisdom, and that you are committed to doing this work, you know, so much so. And I don't know if you mentioned this, but you chose to leave chiropractic work, right, to pursue this work.
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually
That's
handing in my
huge.
license this week.
Yeah, that is, I mean, that in itself, if that doesn't speak volumes to anyone listening as to the importance of this work, man, you know, I just, yeah, I really do. I honor you so much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Jen. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
No, it's
All right.
thanks so much for having me on this. It's like you and I could talk for hours about this stuff because it is so important.
We could. And you know, I want to also thank you for encouraging me with my pattern framework. I'm
Get it out
now
there.
in conversation with a woman in the UK and you did this as well. It's just so synchronistic, to find a way to have it become something that is accredited, that other self-help and self-development practitioners can begin to use. So I know you wanted to share it in your group, and I was like, oh, I don't think my baby's ready to, my baby's not walking or talking yet. But it will be. And that is thanks to you, because you saw something in that. And I want to thank you for that as well. So it does have the capacity to really change lives. So yeah.
Especially when we can become aware of those unconscious patterns.
Yeah.
Because when you're aware of those unconscious patterns that Jen talks about, that's how you can come back to being present. That's how you can come back to stop distracting yourself and feel so that you can heal. So good on you.
I had an amazing, I just share this last thing really quickly. I had this amazing experience today and it just blew my mind. But I was working with a woman, and she had uncovered her pattern, and we did a little feeling and healing session. And at the end of it, she said, can I just ask you this one thing? And I said, sure. She goes, so I've been beating myself up for 19 years about my marriage, and that it was a mistake, and that I knew I shouldn't have married him, and blah, 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 blah. And she goes, so really, I didn't make a mistake. Just my unconscious pattern made that decision, not the truth of me.
Huge.
And I went, yeah. And I'm head to toe goosebumps.
Yeah, far out. That's wild.
19-year burden that she'd carried around with her, that she'd made this monumental mistake, and she released it like that. It's huge.
Wow.
Yeah. It blew my mind. Like, yeah. Amazing.
That's amazing.
All right, my friend. Thank you again so much. I will tag you if there are questions and comments and whatever. And if you can pop the Rumi poem up, that would be awesome.
Perfect.
But I will see you in the group and around and all of the above.
Beautiful, Jen. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
All right. Catch up.